had to realize that I was worth loving, loving, loving. I had to realize that I was worth loving, loving, loving.
Hello, and welcome back to another Thursday question and answer episode of the Worth Loving Podcast. I'm your host, Kiana W. Mitchell, and I'm so grateful that you're here with me today. Every Thursday, we create space for your real, honest, vulnerable questions, the ones you may not feel comfortable asking anywhere else. This is your safe space to explore the things that you're wrestling with in your relationship, your healing, and your emotional journey. This week, our main episode was all about dating with confidence after emotional abuse. And so many of you reached out with questions that were tender, courageous, and deeply reflective. So I want you to know that your willingness to share your heart is not taken lightly or for granted. It takes strength to ask these questions, and it takes even more strength to face the parts of yourself that's still healing. So today we're going to explore several questions related to dating after emotional abuse, questions about readiness, intuition, and emotional availability, and the fear of repeating old patterns. We'll also answer a few questions that aren't really connected to this week's episode, but because healing is never one-dimensional, we're going to answer that as well, and we're going to answer those questions. You are a whole person with a whole story, and every part of your journey matters. As always, you can submit your questions for future episodes by emailing me at kianawmitchell@gmail.com, and that is KEANAWMITCHELL@gmail.com. You can share anonymously or with your name, whatever works for you and whatever makes you feel safe. So, let's take a deep breath together and let's begin. All right, question number 1. How do I know if I'm actually ready to date again or if I'm just lonely? That is such a powerful and honest question, and I know so many people feel this exact tension. After emotional abuse, loneliness can feel heavy, right? Not just because you miss companionship, but because you miss being seen, valued, and emotionally held. But readiness and loneliness are not the same thing. So, one way that you can tell the difference between readiness and loneliness is by asking yourself these questions. Am I looking for someone to fill a void? Or am I looking for someone to share my life with? Loneliness often comes off with urgency, right? And that's why so many people jump into relationships, because they're feeling lonely. They have a desire to escape discomfort. Readiness, on the other hand, feels grounded. It feels like curiosity rather than desperation. Another sign of readiness is that your relationship with yourself is pretty good, okay? So you can ask yourself, am I able to enjoy my own company? Do I feel connected to my needs? Do I have boundaries? Do I listen to my intuition? Trauma researchers like Dr. Sue Johnson and Dr. Kirsten Neff, they remind us that emotional safety begins internally. So if you're still feeling emotionally raw, overwhelmed, or disconnected from yourself, it might be a sign to slow down and that you might not be ready to start dating again. And if that's the case, that's perfectly fine. Like, you don't have to leave one bad relationship or one relationship and then quickly jump into another one. It's often recommended that you wait sometime in between, maybe even a year or two, to recover from a previous relationship, get to know yourself so that your next partner can be a partner that can give you that healthy relationship that you're looking for. But when we talk about whether something is, if you're rushing into it or if you're doing it out of loneliness, it's important for you to know that if you are feeling open, right, and if you're feeling reflective and willing to move at a gentle pace, then that could be a sign of readiness and not loneliness. And here's the truth. You do not have to be fully healed to date again. You just need to be aware, intentional, and committed to honoring yourself. Healing is not a finish line. It's not a posture. It's not something you can do quickly, right? So if you're unsure, I want you to give yourself permission to take things slowly. You can explore connections without rushing into commitment. You can date with curiosity and not pressure. So your readiness will reveal itself through your peace, not your loneliness. Question number 2. I keep attracting emotionally unavailable partners. What am I doing wrong? Okay, first, I kind of want to gently reframe this. You are not doing anything wrong, okay? You're not doing something wrong. Emotional abuse often teaches us to blame ourselves for patterns we didn't create. What's happening here is not a flaw, it's a pattern rooted in past experiences. So, trauma attachment research shows that often we are drawn to what feels familiar. And a lot of times, what feels familiar is not healthy, right? So, if emotional unavailability was just part of your past relationships or childhood experiences, your nervous system may interpret this inconsistency or emotional distance as quote unquote normal. Not because you want it, not because it's healthy, but it's just what your body recognizes at this time. So the key is not to judge yourself, but to be aware of the pattern. Awareness is the first step toward change. So you can kind of begin to shift this pattern by identifying your emotional needs clearly, setting boundaries early, moving slowly enough to observe behavior, pay attention to consistency and not the intensity, and choose partners who respect your pace. Emotional unavailable partners often show their unavailability early through mixed signals, avoidance, or inconsistency. So when you move slowly, you give yourself time to notice these signs before becoming emotionally invested. You're not attracting the wrong people. You are learning to recognize what doesn't align with your healing, and that awareness is a sign of growth. You do deserve someone who is emotionally present, responsive, and available. And as you continue healing, your heart will begin to recognize emotional safety more easily. I hope that answered your question. Okay. Question number 3. I feel scared to trust my intuition because I ignored red flags in the past. How do I rebuild that? This question, wow, it touches the core of healing after emotional abuse. So when someone has manipulated your reality, dismissed your feelings, or made you doubt your perceptions, it's natural to feel disconnected from your intuition. But here's the truth. Your intuition isn't broken. It's bruised. And the great thing about bruises is that they heal, right? So rebuilding your intuition starts with reconnecting to your body. It's important to remember that your body does hold wisdom long before the mind catches up. So when something feels off, your body often signals it through tension, anxiety, or discomfort. When something feels safe, your body softens. Start by noticing these signals without judgment. You don't have to act on them immediately, just acknowledge that they're there. Another way to rebuild your intuition is through small acts of self honoring. And we talked about this in a podcast. So when you're able to say no to something that doesn't feel right, you strengthen your internal trust and your intuition, right? When you pause instead of pushing through discomfort, you reinforce your safety. You can also rebuild intuition by slowing down and dating. When you move slowly, you give yourself space to observe, reflect, and check in with yourself. Intuition thrives in stillness, not urgency. And finally, I do want you to be gentle with yourself. You didn't ignore red flags because you were weak. You ignored them because you were conditioned to survive. Now, you are learning to thrive. Now you're learning to thrive. Excuse me. So instead of just being conditioned to learn to survive, you are now learning how to thrive. Yes. Your intuition is still there. It's still intact. It's just waiting for you to listen to it again. I want to take a moment to share something that can support you if you're ready to go deeper in your healing journey. My 12-week trauma informed coaching program, You Are Worth Loving, is designed specifically for women who are healing from emotional abuse, rebuilding self trust, and learning how to choose relationships that feel safe, healthy, and aligned. Inside the program, we work together to help you understand your attachment patterns, rebuild your sense of worthiness, learn how to set boundaries without guilt, break free from cycles of emotional unavailability, strengthen your intuition, and create a vision for healthy love. This isn't a surface level program, it's deeply supportive, emotionally safe, where you can heal at your own pace. You'll receive weekly coaching, guided exercises, and tools rooted in research from leading psychiatrists. Their work on attachment, trauma, and self compassion forms the foundation of the program. Some of the psychologists we will be using their research on is Dr. Sue Johnson, Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, and Dr. Kirsten Neff. Their work is amazing, and I've used a lot of it in the podcast. So this is what we use to build our program and to make sure that people who are in the program get the help that they need. If you've been listening to this podcast and thinking, I know what I need to do, but I don't know how to actually do it, then this program is for you. You don't have to navigate healing alone. You don't have to guess your way through dating or relationships. You deserve support, clarity, and a roadmap. So, if you're interested in joining the next class, stay tuned. Enrollment opens soon, and I would love to walk alongside you on this journey. Now, let's get back into today's episode. All right, question number 4. What if I meet someone healthy, but I don't feel the spark? Is that trauma or intuition? Okay, this is such a common experience, and I love this question because, especially for survivors of emotional abuse, the spark we often talk about, that intense immediate chemistry, can sometimes be a trauma response and not a sign of compatibility. Trauma bonds and chaotic relationships create emotional highs and lows that feel intoxicating. So, when you meet someone who is calm, consistent, and emotionally safe, your nervous system may interpret that as boring or off. Not because the person is wrong for you, but because your body is adjusting to a new kind of safety. The best way to tell the difference between lack of attraction and lack of familiarity is to think about this. How do you feel? If you feel repelled or uninterested, then match your intuition, okay? If you feel calm, neutral, or unsure, that's often healing. Healthy love often grows slowly. It's steady, grounded, and gentle. It doesn't rush you. It doesn't overwhelm you. It doesn't create anxiety. So give yourself permission to explore slow burn attraction. Let connection build through emotional safety, shared values, and consistent behavior. Your nervous system may need time to recalibrate, and that's okay. You're not broken. You are just healing. Question number 5. How do I date without feeling like I have to explain my trauma to everyone? That's really a good question. And here's the real answer. You don't owe your trauma story to anyone, especially not early in dating. Your past is sacred and your healing is personal, so you get to choose when, how, and with whom you share it. Healthy partners don't demand emotional access before trust is built. They don't pressure you to open up before you're ready. They allow your story time to unfold naturally. So you can set gentle boundaries by saying things like, I like to take my time opening up. Or you could say, I prefer to share personal things once I feel more comfortable. Or you could say, I'm getting to know you and I'll share more when it feels right. You don't have to justify this. You don't have to apologize for it. You don't have to explain your trauma to be worthy of love. Your story is yours, so share it only when it feels safe. Question number 6. What if I'm afraid I'll sabotage a healthy relationship because I don't know what to do with kindness? This question is so true and it's tender and it reflects a deep level of self-awareness. So when you've been conditioned to expect chaos, inconsistency, or emotional harm, kindness can feel unfamiliar. It can even feel threatening because your nervous system may interpret safety as danger just because it's new. So the first step is to acknowledge this fear without shame. You're not sabotaging because you want to. You're protecting yourself based on old patterns. And you can begin the healing by allowing kindness to come in small doses. You can name your discomfort instead of hiding it. You can practice self soothing when you feel overwhelmed. This is really good to do. When you're starting to feel overwhelmed, practice soothing yourself. You can communicate your pace and needs. You can let trust build slowly because healthy partners are going to understand. They're not going to rush you. And especially if you've had a difficult relationship in the past, they will understand. They're not going to punish you for needing reassurance. They'll meet you where you are. So you don't have to know what to do with kindness right away. You just have to let yourself experience it little by little. Okay, question number 7. What are some ways to practice self love on days when I feel disconnected from myself? That's an amazing question because self love is not always soft or glamorous, right? Sometimes it's choosing rest when you feel guilty. Sometimes it's feeding yourself when you're exhausted. Sometimes it's saying no when you're afraid of disappointing others. So, on days when you feel disconnected, try placing your hand on your heart and take 3 slow breaths, okay? Write down one thing you're proud of. Listening to music can help ground you. Taking a warm shower. I like to take long baths with bath salts and bath bombs. Speaking one gentle affirmation can help. Sitting in silence for 2 minutes. Drinking water slowly and intentionally. Self love is just not a feeling, it's a practice. And so you are allowed to practice even when you don't feel connected. So that is how you can practice self love even on days when you feel disconnected from yourself. All right, question number 8. How do I stop comparing my healing journey to other people's? Love this question because comparison is a trauma response, right? It's rooted in survival. When you've lived in environments where you had to monitor others' emotions or behaviors to stay safe, comparison becomes second nature. But healing is not a race, it's not linear, and it's not meant to look like someone else's either. You can begin releasing comparison by first unfollowing accounts that trigger insecurity, celebrating small wins, naming your unique strengths, and practicing gratitude for your pace. Reminding yourself that healing is personal, your journey is sacred, your timeline is valid. You are not behind, you are becoming. All right, well, guys, thank you so much for spending time with me today. Your questions were very thoughtful, vulnerable, insightful, and deeply reflective. And I hope the answers offered the clarity, comfort, and encouragement that you needed. So if you haven't listened to this week's main episode of the podcast, Dating with Confidence After Emotional Abuse, I strongly encourage you to go check it out. It pairs plainly with today's question and answers, and it offers a deeper foundation for everything we talked about today. And remember, you can submit your questions anytime by emailing me at kianawmitchell@gmail.com. And you can share anonymously or with your name. This is your space, your community, and it's also your healing journey. Before we close, I want to remind you to keep an eye out for the upcoming mini drop from our podcast musical artist, Emery Rose. It's coming soon to all streaming platforms, and her music is deeply crafted to support your healing, reflection, and emotional grounding. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for choosing healing. And thank you for allowing me to walk beside you. You are absolutely always, always, always worth loving. Have an amazing day and an awesome weekend. Bye bye.